Hey there. Sorry for the delay. The hackers crashed my computer, but we're back up and running now. So, as always, this is for entertainment purposes only. It's not meant to provide professional advice. Should you need professional advice, please talk to someone who's an expert. I'm not. So, I was off to Hogwarts, Arthur Findlay, by way of Ireland. I'd always wanted to go to Ireland. I always thought, given my ancestors were from there, that it was a place that would really resonate, and I hadn't made it. So I think I spent about a week to 10 days there. Again, I'm telling you historically as it happened in my journey. So this was a little bit ago. But anyway, actually, it was a little bit ago, and I'm going to talk about some places. And I was actually there filming, I think it was in February of 2023. So you can see the videos if you want to see the places with the background, not the content. All right. So I took Aer Lingus, great airline, by the way. It was fantastic and cheap. And I flew into Dublin. And as always, you guys should know this by now, I hadn't planned really anything. I just landed in Dublin and knew I wanted to get out of the city, walked out of the airport, grabbed my bag, and then grabbed a bus to Cork. Again, no plans. Cork sounded like it was a cool town. So I headed there, and boy, was I in for a great surprise. It was a pretty industrial town with rivers running right through it. It was amazing, actually. And I walked over, dragged my suitcase, the bus station, I don't know, 150 meters away from the hotel. And I was going to stay there for just one night. Found I think it's a 3-star. I may not be doing it justice, but cheap, nice, could get a shower. It worked. It was a nice place to stay. It was right in the center of town. So jury's in Cork. You should take a look at it. And actually, I've added pictures on the slide so you guys can see it. By the way, I stole these from their website. So full disclaimer, they're not my pictures on any of these. But you can see the jury's in under Cork on the top left of the screen. So I spent a lot of time running around town, just walking, just taking in the scenery. I do that in places that I go, check out the culture, go to local pubs, see the shops. I really enjoyed my time there. The highlight, honestly, was, and you can see the picture of it, I went to a castle in Cork. I didn't go to Blarney Castle. I did the one that was the observatory. And so I walked over there. I didn't really plan appropriately. I ended up walking probably, 10 miles in the pouring rain, but it was amazing and so well worth it. It was a stunning castle. And so I highly recommend it. Again, you can see the website that I pulled it from. So anybody who's going to Ireland, I would highly recommend Cork. I don't hear it talked about a lot, but the people were so friendly. Jury's Inn is a great place to stay. It's not fancy, just so you know. But I would highly recommend it. So spent a couple days journeying around there, and then I decided, okay, it's time to take a bus. Walked right down to my bus station and took a bus to Killarney. So the reason I was headed to Killarney is, again, my brother had done some research on our ancestors, and it was supposed to be our ancestral land, or our family was supposed to be located outside of town. And so I had a little bit of direction, but not tons. And Killarney was, again, raved about. And so I decided to hit Killarney for a couple days. I was just kind of meandering while I was waiting to go to England for the class. So in Killarney, took a bus. I have to tell you, I've never seen so many sheep in my life. The landscapes were just breathtaking. And the bus was really nice getting there, inexpensive. And just saw the landscape between the two towns. I forget how long it was, probably a couple hours. But I ended up booking at Murphy's of Killarney. That place was fantastic. There was a pub downstairs with great food. How can you go wrong with a place named Murphy's? It was right by the bus station again, could drag my suitcase over there. I learned a long time ago that I don't like to carry a backpack. So I just drag my suitcase on wheels through town, and everyone laughs at me. They don't really laugh at me, but it's quite the sight, I'm sure. And then they have really comfortable rooms upstairs. The staff, as the rest of Ireland was incredibly friendly, incredibly welcome, incredibly accommodating. And so I ended up being really, really happy there. So in order to check out Killarney, I checked out the downtown for a couple days, just walking around, meeting people, experiencing the views. Cute, cute, cute downtown. I really enjoyed it. And then I decided to, again, didn't do any research before I went, but I decided to hit Killarney National Park. It looked amazing. And so, as luck would have it, grabbed a little Irish cab over there and really spent, I think it was, God, all day long wandering around Killarney National Park. If you go to Killarney, I would highly, highly, highly recommend it. I think it's over 10,000. I don't remember exactly, but 10,000 acre. I know it's way bigger than 10,000 acres. I think. Don't quote me. And they have a 15th century castle there, which is Ross Castle. It has the estates, Muckross Estates and Muckross House. It has waterfalls. It has creatures. It has, it's just, I could have spent days and days and days there. It just was an amazing place. The historical national park is just unbelievable. So anyway, check it out if you're there. So after I went to the national park and spent all day, I might have even spent a day and a half there with all the different things to see. Didn't find any leprechauns though. So after I went there, I ended up taking back from the castle, which, by the way, I get lost all the time when I'm overseas. And so I'm sitting outside of the castle. It starts pouring rain again, and I didn't feel like walking back. And so I had to dial a cab. Well, at the time, I had no idea where it was. And so the lovely Irish cab driver was so nice to find me. I gave him like landmarks of what I could see and what gate I could see, and he ended up picking me up. And it ended up being serendipity, as the universe always does, where I actually convinced him to drive me around to try to find, because I had some idea of where it was, to where my family land, my family used to live back in the day. And so it ended up that this guy was game for an adventure. He ended up being someone who had been incredibly involved in politics there, and just gave it up because, as he said, it was full of bullshit. And so we had a lovely conversation, and he was game for the adventure, and we spent probably 3 hours driving around town, the little towns surrounding lands outside of Killarney. And he was giving me, the whole historical tour and, talking about everything in life, and it ended up being such a good time. Long story short, we sort of found where I think my family was, but, it didn't confirm it. So anyway, it was a great time, enjoyed it. It was a beautiful landscape. It didn't call to me the way I thought it would, and it didn't call to me the way like Costa Rica does, but it was definitely an amazing, amazing experience. So he took me back. I think we even grabbed a beer at the pub because we were enjoying the conversation so much. And then, he went on his merry way, and I thanked him for joining me on my adventure. And then I knew I had one more day in Killarney before I headed off to my next location. So I did some research, and I found a stone circle. I thought I found a stone circle. Again, the direction thing. And so I knew it was walkable, probably 5 miles. And so I ended up trying to walk to find the stone circle. Long story short, after being turned around multiple times, great exercise, by the way, and the weather was kind of pretty. I ended up walking into an antique store to try to ask, if this guy knew where the stone circle was. It was great. As I've said many a time, I think the universe directed me there. I ended up having a really great conversation with this guy who not only told me that the stone circle was on private land, and he happened to be one of the ones who had permission to go on the private land, and I could go there, and directed me literally right across the street through like what I'll call lots of mud to get there. So he gave me permission, and because we had such a lovely conversation and we just really connected, he ended up giving me a plate, which was an antique plate that he said made me think of him, or made him think of me, rather. And it was just really touching. So I left the plate with him, told him I'd pick it up on my way back from the stone circle, and set off across private lands to go find the stone circle. It was everything I hoped it would be. It was an incredibly great vibe and moving experience, and you saw all sorts of, I'll call them offerings that people had left. And so I sat on the ground in the middle of someone's property, didn't see anybody there. I asked him, he was laughing at me actually, because I was a little concerned that the sheep would, I don't know, I'm not really used to sheep necessarily. And so I was a little worried about the sheep bum rushing me as I'm sitting on the ground in the middle of the stone circle. But they were tame, or tame enough. They didn't come bum rush me and kind of just ignored me. And had a really nice time staying there for an hour or two, and then went back and picked up my plate and went back to the hotel at Murphy's, and then knew I was headed out the next day. So my last stop in Ireland, and I did this on purpose, was going to a little town, and I'm going to say it wrong probably, called Clonakilty. It's a lovely little town. And so I had rented an Airbnb that was attached to someone's house, and it was just a little cottage, and it was in the middle of a little seaside town. You can see it in the pictures on the right. So I have a picture of the cottage, again, stolen from their website, and a picture of the sea. And so when I got off the bus, it was pouring like hell. And so the owners of the cottage were nice enough to say they would pick me up. I didn't really need a car, and plus I didn't want to drive on the wrong side of the road because I'd probably get in an accident. And so while I was waiting for them, I decided to go in and get a lovely little breakfast. And so I went to a beautiful, beautiful little, there were like 7 little shops in the middle of town. There was a grocery store, so I picked up groceries. And then I went and had a lovely Irish breakfast, which was super filling and kept me warm, and waited for my ride to pick me up. I think it was called Connemara's. If you get there, I highly recommend that town. It's sleepy, so don't expect tons of excitement, but oh my God, it's amazing. So I went there until they picked me up, and then I headed to my little Airbnb by the sea. It's called Shearwater Chalet if you ever want to stay there. Claire and her family were amazing hosts. They were just the right amount of mix of leaving you alone and checking in on you to see if you need anything. They had great, homemade jams and breads and tea waiting for me. Great views, as you can see in the picture down below. And really spent my time relaxing and writing. And actually, go back to the video because it's super cool. Claire was actually a sound healer, and she had a yoga room. I'll call it a yoga room. I don't know if she calls it that. She probably calls it a sound healing room. And you can see in my video from February, I think it is, I'm actually in that room. And so I talk about it. So you can see that if you go back and look at the videos, if you're so inclined. But anyway, it was beautiful. Actually, it might have been earlier than February. I think I'm getting it wrong. It's January 2023. Anyway. You'll find it if you're curious. And so I had a lovely stay there. I think I stayed for 4 or 5 days, maybe, tops. And then I knew I needed to get back to Jury's Inn for the night in Cork, took the bus. And then I was off to Dublin to head it out to go to Hogwarts. So quick summary of my trip to Ireland. I highly recommend going. I wish I had stayed longer and gone to more places. I'll probably head back sometime. And head to Northern Ireland. But again, beautiful people, beautiful places. I talk about the places that I stayed because every single one of them I would highly recommend if you ever get to those towns. So until next time, have a fantastic weekend. Take care.